Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I have missed a couple of episodes of Married First Sight. I'll get into that at the end because I don't want to be talking for too long without talking about the review. So, everyone has left the couple retreat house and it's officially 7 days until decision day. First, we see Haley show up to the apartment, and of course, Jacob was already at the house because, he left without saying bye. He left without being like, hey, I'm leaving, because, Jacob and Haley both went to the couple retreat separate cars because, if anything, they are the weakest couple. I don't want to put it in that way, but we just know that they're the least compatible. They've had the most arguments aside from Virginia and Eric, but they've just had a lot of trouble in their marriage. It's almost more of like a strained friendship more than a marriage, if you know what I'm saying. And yeah, he left without saying goodbye in the morning. And Jacob gave somewhat of a valid reason, I think, because he said that, it was due to his dogs and stuff, but regardless, he still could have just been like, I'm leaving. Texted her, called her. At least a message would have been different than her just waking up and being like, oh, he's not here. And then I think it was Ryan who was like, yeah, he left in the morning. It's like, okay, that's cool. And now she looks kind of stupid in a way. Next, we see Virginia and Eric with the dogs, and they're better than they've been, but I just feel like in some scenes, Eric looks like he's lost excitement in their relationship from where they started, because it was like hype and happiness and butterflies and roses. Now he's just like, all we do is argue. She doesn't listen to me. She doesn't compromise. It's just buried down from where they started. Clara and Ryan are reminiscing about the couple's trip to the retreat that they took, and things seem good for them in the hood, but Clara in her confessional, Clara, said she's stressed out over the fact that Ryan is still yet to say I love you. We're just kind of ignoring the fact that the sex isn't happening or hasn't happened yet. That's just already another issue. If it's sophomore, it's I love you. And they have less than, I think, a week at this point. So it's like, are you going to say it at some point? I mean, obviously Haley and Jacob are not on that level, but with them, they are obviously a lot more further in the relationship as friends and actual relationship. And he's just still struggling with it because, he's never said it before. And that's all he's kind of really holding on to. But it's like, dude, you're married, or you're having to decide whether to stay married. And you still can't even say you love her yet. Questionable. Brianna and Vincent discuss the fact that decision day is looming and hoping that things work out the way that they should with not only themselves, but the other couples. So obviously they're kind of all close-knit with each other. And Vincent's like, I think I can predict who's going to stay together and who's not. And Ron's like, are you sure? Do you actually know? And he does mention Haley and Jacob, which is an obvious one because their argument at the couple retreat was just very awkward and was in front of everybody, aside from Claire and Ryan, who showed up later. But as that conversation went on, it took a left. I don't know how it veered to this topic specifically, but Brianna was vocal. And she said that she initially questioned how unorganized Vincent was at the start of their marriage. But she put that fear and doubt to the side because she figured that her traits as an organized person, woman, would be enough for both of them. But based off her saying that, I said his face expression and just the way he's reacted to other conversations and arguments they've had in the past, I knew that he wouldn't receive the message well. And it was evident on his face that he just didn't like that she said that, period. And I don't know if he just wanted to argue back, tit for tat, just get her back because he was upset, and he decided to follow up saying he specifically requested for someone who isn't a direct person, and her bossiness was a turnoff for him. You could tell in that moment, in her confessional period, that she just was upset, she was hurt, she didn't like that. It's she said that, again, for what reason, I don't know, but in response to her saying that he had to have a dig at her, which wasn't necessary, the thing is, she could tell he was upset about it because she vents about it to her mom later, but again, he just didn't need to continue with that. Later, we see Ryan playing games with one of his friends, and then that's what happens for the rest of the episode. Each person has either FaceTime or in-person time with one of their friends. They're venting about the relationship. Ryan's takeaways is that he said that the hardest part of the relationship is the fact that it was expedited, and it makes it difficult for them to thoroughly learn each other. And that's just what it is. You knew you were signing up to marry someone on site and have weeks to decide whether you're going to stay together or not. So either way, they knew it was going to be an expedited process in the first place. So I wouldn't really say that's a con. I mean, that's what it is, but you know that going in, this is not a traditional marriage. I'm also just saying because of that, it makes it harder for them to actually learn each other, because it's just a snappy, really fast session to be do I know who you are at the end of this? Do I stay with you? But I mean, you're marrying at first sight. You guys knew the pace was going to be unrealistic from the jump, so I don't feel sympathetic on that note. Next, we see Brianna having a FaceTime call with her mom, and they're just chatting and catching up. But Brianna admits that she went from being super sure of herself, of the relationship, of Vincent, of her and Vincent and a stable relationship, to being doubtful, being nervous, just due to the arguments they've had. And she also relayed the unorganized versus the bossy conversation that she had with Vincent. And I'm worried for her. Like, I was rooting for them. I was going to start yelling, you know, like the Tyra, I was rooting for you. Like, that's how I felt with this. Because I was like, they were really good. And I'm saying were because like at the point it was like, oh my God, it's so sweet. It's so sincere. Now it's just like, well, damn, these arguments and like him storming off at the dance thing, him refusing to go on the horse, I mean, having like a hissy fit about it. It just started to make me be more like that's how I felt. Clara has a FaceTime call with one of her friends, and she's having a venting session. This is what pissed me off. Her friend asked if there's been any concerns about the marriage, and Clara said 10 out of 10, no complaints. You know they're going to watch this back, right? Okay. You didn't mention the lack of sex or inability for him to say I love her. That's one thing. Like, maybe you don't want to embarrass yourself, but 10 out of 10, you've known each other for a few weeks. You guys probably have in tier the second most problems out of everybody. I mean, I guess everyone has a lot of stuff, but like, I just don't understand why you're lying to yourself, to the TV show, to your friend, like, that's just like, it pissed me off a little bit. We see Haley meet up with her friend, and she admits she's anxious about decision day. Of course, their relationship's been like a roller coaster. And the red flag she gave is that he's 40 and single, and like Kenneth questions, I guess, the age and him being single and like the past years in his life and like their humor being different. For pros, she said loyal. He accepted the process. I was like, okay. Once she said he accepted this process, oh, you could have had someone else and they would have accepted the process too. So that would have been another pro. So it's not about him specifically. It's just that there was a guy there. And I was like, I bet just bring decision day so they can mutually end the marriage. That's just kind of how I felt in that moment. Next, we see Eric at his place FaceTiming his friend and initially saying that they're a dead set match and like he loved her and everything was good. And she's like, he could tell why the matchmakers put them together. And then things went. Eventually he started ranting about their issues and their inability to resolve them. Like, he was just going on and on and on and on and on. His friend was just like, I said, yeah, rightfully so. I would have done the same thing. But yeah, it wasn't a good chat. There wasn't really a main takeaway other than that. Ryan and Clara take an enneagram. That's my first time seeing that word. Data test per Ryan's request. He said, this is a way to see if we're compatible, see our strengths and weaknesses, compare them to each other. And while she was answering the questions, like, am I emotional? Am I this? This was Ryan. He's like, it was just so calm and cool. He was just so like, it was his expressions to everything. I don't think you can edit that because the point is that she was answering the questions and he was just looking at her like, I don't know if it was more of like, oh, wow, you're really different than me. Or he thought she was lying about what she is compared to the test. I don't know. It was just really funny. And like, he had his confessional saying like, wow, like we're actually like a lot different than I thought we were. And I'm like concerned about it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, oh, I worry for them. But 3 days before decision day, Vincent has a session and he's FaceTiming one of his friends and he didn't really have that much positive things to say. Again, I don't know if it's because this is like the eve or not too long after the whole argument he had with Brianna, but he said that the experience hasn't been easy, but they have a lot of fun together. He also said they've had hiccups and bumps, but to be honest, like for me, not him saying this, a majority of them have been from his end. I just didn't feel convinced about like a positive outcome for him and Brianna at the end of this after that. I'm just like, oh man, I just don't know. For Virginia, her guy friend came over. I said guy friend because, you know, that's where her and Eric's, a lot of their problems stem from her having so many guy friends and her being so close with them. He comes over in person. And when she was talking about it, honestly, her and Eric have different interpretations about their lows and arguments, which was like concerning. Like other people, when they're talking about like what's wrong with them, like Haley and Jacob, Brianna and Vincent, like it matches up. It's just that maybe one person feels some type of way about it. But when Virginia and Eric are talking about it, it's always just like, y'all are just not on the same page. Even though I know there's two sides to the story and there's one, but like they're just interpreting it very differently. So I'm like, are y'all even in the same argument or the same conversation when it's happening? Because they don't sound like it. That's just how I gave about it. But as she was talking to the guy friend, he's like, well, what about this other girlfriend? Like, what does she think about it? So they faced him another friend. And she just didn't have anything great to say about the marriage, essentially. And I just don't think she's essentially ready or was ever ready to be married. Like, I just don't. She's as old as I am, like 27, I think, or late 20s. I just don't think she's ready. She still has more partying to do, which is fine. I just think she just wasn't ready for this show. Like, this is a big commitment for someone who's not ready to commit for something like a series as marriage and have kids and move in with someone and have your all for another person, because that's what happens when you get married. 2 days until decision day, Claire and Ryan go out to like a sports bar type of location for their last date, and instead of like traditional bowling, they're like throwing footballs at bowling pins and like eating chat. I've never seen that before. It was kind of like an interesting date. But then at the dinner, I kind of like got murky thoughts when like they were talking. I didn't really know what was going on until Ryan was just rambling like, yeah, so decision day will come up, this and this. Well, when we have to decide, like it was just talking. And eventually he's like, no matter what happens on decision day. So it wasn't really like a positive ending note, which I get from Claire's perspective. It was more like, well, whatever happens, no matter what happens, things will, it's like, okay, like, no, like, let's say when we say yes, or I don't know, there's just different ways to go about it, I guess. Like, he doesn't need to lie, because that's how I felt Haley's been with the Jacob situation. But like, it just didn't come off good. And Clara walked off crying. I said, okay, let's just go on to the other dates, okay? Brianna and Vincent go to dinner, and their conversation wasn't the greatest either, to be honest. Like, they were vulnerable and discussed the things that they needed to, the bossiness and the unorganized argument. But like, I just feel like they've been taking several steps back. And like, in my opinion, I can see Brianna's growth. And I know people, if they watch this, are gonna just be like, no, you see that Brianna's saying that she won't change her ways for him. She said she's stuck in her ways. She said she's bossy. She's not gonna change. I know she said that, but I feel like, again, everyone has different interpretations. I feel like she's changed a lot, and like she's cautious and aware of like when he's upset about something. Because you know that time when he got upset about, I think, the champagne, she didn't know. Now she's aware of like, oh, this comment made you upset. Well, I know this doesn't bother you. Like, I feel like she's gathering those things, and him, he's just not. But that's just how I'm gathering from it. But the dinner was just like so. Jacob and Haley have their dinner date, and it's like they're business partners or old friends. Nothing romantic is in my eyes when I see them. It's not husband and wife material to me. But Haley mentions that she's learned quite a bit about herself and them as a couple. But given all the conversations I've seen of them throughout the entirety of the season, I don't think their marriage is salvageable. Like, Haley references that I think Dr. Pepper gave them an exercise to work on for them, but like, you got 2 days, honey. Like, it's just not, when's the last time they kissed or hugged or something? Like, it's just not romantic at all. Eric and Virginia go to dinner, and at first glance, you'd forget about how bad they've been. It looks like happiness and married couple for a while, blah, blah, blah. But then shit hit the fan repeatedly in this and just in general in their marriage. He started to cry about how much she means to him. When I was looking on Twitter, a lot of people were saying that he was doing that to like guilt trip her, or like be manipulative, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what people were saying. I was kind of like, huh. But what I just really gathered is like, when he was crying, she was just like, yeah, it's like she just was not wavered or bothered or like she was just like, okay, so like the next topic, like it was just not pressed about it at all. I said, okay. After that, Ryan and Claire are in bed talking about decision day, and I just didn't even know what to say, y'all. Clara's like, yeah, on decision day, when we say yes, when things are good, when we say yes, but when Ryan was like, yeah, decision day. She's like, yeah, like when we say yes, this was gonna happen, then we're gonna live together forever. And he's like, yeah. And I said, dude, this is so bad. This is so bad. But then after that, Brianna and Vincent are at the place after dinner, and I forgot this happened. Excuse me. He cut her braid off without her permission. I guess what he said is that she mentioned that she wanted to take her hair down at some point, but in that moment, she hadn't said, like, we're doing it today. Like, you need to be like, you know what, I'm going to do it now, because it takes a process, because she has braids like this. It takes a long time. You have to unbraid them, comb them, like, detangle. But he's like, I have a surprise for you. Has her close her eyes, has scissors, and he's just like, I said, and the thing is, she's like, not right now. I said, and I just don't know why that happened. Maybe I'm internalizing if I'm a black woman with braids right now. I'm sensitive. I said, what? No. The intent was good to help her out, because it's really helpful if you can have someone who can help you with your braids. It goes twice as fast. But no, honey, that just wasn't it. That wasn't it. But at the end of the episode, let's see. We see Jacob and Haley in the kitchen, Virginia and Eric in bed having like pillow talk, and they still have things to like discuss. Like, Eric is struggling to somehow get Virginia to stay, and she's just mentally tapped out is what it seems. But one day before decision day, all the couples have their temporary goodbyes, and all the men pack their things and move out the Married First Sight apartment complex kind of thing. And the one that was the cringiest the most was Brianna and Vince, the one I expected the least. But theirs was the most cringy because I thought they were the strongest couple at some point. We see Brianna in bed, like checking on Vince and like, hey, like, what are you thinking about? Blah, blah, blah. And as he packs his thing on, he's like, it was nice knowing you. Why did he say that? Why would you say? And the thing is, like, he just left. He didn't like, oh, just kidding, sweetie, like kiss her. Like, it was nice seeing you. I said, I don't know. He's grown. He's too grown to be saying things like that and not thinking and they're not even like on an amazing place in their relationship for him to like say it and her not to doubt anything. Like, I just don't know why he did that. Lord. Why? Sorry, I'm like getting like into it now, but that was the end of the episode. I'm sorry I've not done the last 2 episodes. 2 weeks ago, I was out away from Wi-Fi and data. The week before, I had done Married at First Sight and Unmatchables. So if you can see in my last week, I did Unmatchables, and you can see for some reason, we are still going on with this series, and they are on the same day. So it's really hard for me to get both of them out. So I prioritized that one, thinking that the finale of this would be this week. I'm ranting because, again, I think it's super annoying. They have both shows going on. So again, I prioritized that one. At that point, it was already too late for me to watch this one to do a review. So now I'm like, let me do this one. And then I'll watch Unmatchables tomorrow morning when it comes on and then do a review for you guys for that if you guys want me to. But yeah, full in-depth review. But let me know what you think in the comments. See you in the next video. Bye! Decision day coming up.